Thanks. I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 2nd Facilities Committee meeting. Is there any public comment on the agenda? No?
Have none.
Okay. So then we will start with Mr. Lally.
Good evening, everyone. The first item on our agenda is just a review of where we are with the current portion of the middle school project. As Mr. Zablowski stated earlier, obviously the children are in the school and we're occupying the school. And now we're working on the demolition of the old school, and the portion of that, the asbestos abatement is completed. And now we're in full 100% demolition mode. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is just a brief kind of time frame schedule for everyone that, Dewey put together for us to let us know, like, demolition of the building starting, and then with a finish date of June 20th, which we're optimistic that maybe we can be a little earlier, right, Jamie? A day or two? So again, things are moving along well. And again, it's just very detailed because there is an old oil tank for fuel oil that was in the building that needs to be removed. But I think that the critical dates in there are looking at, the final completion of the construction of the new parking lots is August 26th of 2022, which is prior to the most important date, which is the students returning on August 29th of 2022. So again, that's just a little time frame to keep everybody in the loop of where we're going and what we need to do. And we'll talk a little bit at the end of this presentation about the all-weather track system. Yeah, next, so just showing some photos of the demolition that started in the front of the building. I think most of you may have driven by the building. I know many of you have spoken to me separately about, you have seen it and what it looks like. And, I'm sure for some people sad and for some people glorious that it's not there. So I'm sure there's some mixed emotions. If you go to the next slide, please, Dave. Again, so if you're looking at the picture on the left, you're seeing that taken from the parking lot area of the old building. And the picture on the right would be if you were going up the bus lane. You can see the retaining wall there at the bottom. So if you were to go in the old site and then you go down the hill and then back up to what we call the bridge area, that would be the retaining wall. That's all those classrooms along that side that are exposed with no more exterior wall. So Dewey was kind enough to take a drone photo. This one's honestly one of my favorites because it shows the old middle school, and in the background it actually captures the new school, and that gives you a good idea of the footprint that you'll be looking at when the old middle school is gone, and then hopefully a better visualization of, in the upper right to kind of center, where you'll have the buses parking, and how everything will take shape, and the fields will be, where the building is, and you're seeing a lot of where mobilization is now. So the drone shot gives a really good idea, a good perception, I think, for everyone of what you're going to be looking at shortly when that's going on. And then this is just another angle of that shot that kind of displays again that you can see the gym is gone, and the back end of the gym and the locker rooms, the main lobby is gone. And you can see that they have a lot of materials removed, which is another good sign. So the site is moving along nicely. I think we're all happy with the progress that we're making, and we were happy that we were able to work with the asbestos abatement company and get started on the date that we actually did get started. So I think everyone is feeling pleased and positive about the direction we're headed. So last on this presentation would be, we spoke about a synthetic turf on the for the track, a synthetic track surface. Right now, we would be looking at price-wise for that somewhere around 1.5 million. We put 1.5 to 1.7 million, just in case, the board, if it was something that the board was interested in. We kind of highlighted some things that you may be interested in. Looking at the scoreboard, potential extra electric out there, some added stormwater fencing, security, and things of that nature. So, cameras. So, it could go as high as 1.7 is basically what we're trying to say in that number.
A couple quick questions for you on this track. We allow people in the community to use this track to walk on.
Correct.
Can you give us any conversation about the difference between the maintenance and durability of and longevity of a cinder track and a synthetic track? Yeah.
Sure. A synthetic track can last 20 to 30 years. You know, you're looking at probably resurfacing it somewhere around year 10. And if you're lucky, maybe you get 15 years of resurfacing it. If you recall,
how much did we get on the high school?
We did at the high school.
How long?
So they come out. So we resurfaced the high school, I want to say about 4 years ago now.
Right.
That we did it.
So that was over 10 years.
So the track itself is older than 10 years old, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's basically your life expectancy for a synthetic track is somewhere in that range. Again, and obviously, you know, if we do correct and the proper preventative maintenance, you can maximize or minimize those life expectancies based on how we actually take care of it.
That's not 1.5 million over top of what it would cost for a cinder block track, right? There's some cost that would be there no matter what. What's the difference be, you think?
Yeah, I can. The reality is that it really would be the same, because what we would have to do is we would have to scrape everything off right now. We'd have to put about 4 inches of modified 2A modified stone down. Then we'd have to asphalt it, and then we'd have to the asphalt / synthetic turf. It's a two-step process. That would be the final process. So it could, believe it or not, actually make the actual process a little bit more expensive, because we have to put all that 2A modified underneath to prep for the synthetic track. So unfortunately, it wouldn't be money coming back to us because we deferred on the asphalt track.
Mr. Lally, another question. You have fencing and security as an option. Right now, the way it's presented, the football field and the track are there, and there's no fencing at all?
Correct.
Okay, and there's no bleachers at all?
There are some mobile bleachers that we had there that sit a minimal amount of people.
And that really ugly storage thing, is that gone?
The Kwanzaa hut is still there. There is, I believe, a change in. We were working with pen builders to actually make the outside of that and get some more life expectancy out of it. We realized when we did it that for our track teams and our football teams and some of the programs we had, that we really need it still. So
and it's still safe. It's salvageable.
It's still safe and salvageable. Yes, we reviewed it and we spoke with pen builders.
It's ugly.
And yeah, we want to do something on the exterior for sure.
Maybe our art department could come up with something.
We want to make a decision about this. We need to as a board, decide that we're willing to spend somewhere in the ballpark of 1.3 or 4 to 1.7, depending on which of these options we want to include.
That's correct.
And when does that decision have to be made? Tonight?
Obviously, you're the board, so you can set the time frame. But for construction, I would think that we would need to know sometime in June, Jamie, if not sooner.
It's May, Jamie.
So I guess what I would like to see is sort of a breakdown, like an actual comparison, like how much are we going to be spending on, just to put back what we thought we were going to do in the first place, and then like sort of how much are we looking at for each of those a la carte options on there. And then, I mean, I'm thinking that fencing and security we're going to want no matter what, whether we redo it with whatever surface, right? Or you...
Well, I don't know. There never was fencing before.
It just had a little bit of fencing.
We put areas of fencing down. So maybe, and they were more for when we were playing and trying in a attempt to keep the actual middle school participants and spectators separated. So there was fences that we put, that was what that attempt was, but there was never a fence around the whole stadium.
No, right. Is this come from you or from Jamie as to what these numbers would be? Do you have these numbers for us? Ooh, can we hear from Jamie?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Joe. Just a couple of points of information. So with respect to the timeline on the track, there's two things that have to happen before anything happens. One is the design. So you need a design. The design professional put that together.
We want it to look like that.
Right. But the second thing that's contingent on the design is the updated permit from the Montgomery County Conservation District, because the track is impervious surface. Now, the stormwater under the field has been designed for this, but we still have to go through the process of getting the permit, getting the design done, moving ahead. And then working with you on how to get the actual pricing. It could be a change order with the contractors that you have on site, which is probably what I recommend, to take advantage of exactly the point that you made. You're already putting down cinders and doing the repairs that's already in the contract. There's not a line item for it, so I can't just pull that out. But that's incorporated in the work here. Instead of putting the cinders back in, we're putting exactly what Mr. Lally said, the 4 inches of stone that supports the asphalt surface. So that's netting out, if you will. With respect to schedule, we have to design it, we have to get it permitted, we have to get your go to do it. Then what do we have to do? Oh, we have to build it. And so first it can't start until what? The staff is parking on that lot right now, on the field right now. So it can't start until school ends. But what am I doing when school ends? I'm going like hell after the building is down to build the parking lots that you have to be on, right? So the contractor's focus is over here. But he's committed to coming in, getting everything graded, and at least paving, putting the asphalt down for the track by this fall. Now, the synthetic surface requires two things. It requires 30 days of asphalt curing, and it requires 40 degrees and rising of outside air temperature in order to spray the urethane surface. So the contractor, we've talked to Penn Builders, their earthwork contractor, they would like to get this paved after they pave your parking lots for the beginning of September. So they're paving likely in September. I need 30 days of curing, and then I need 40 and rising in order to spray the urethane. So what that probably means is that we get the paving done, but the track surface actually goes down next spring. Now, the unfortunate thing is that's track season. So could the kids run on an asphalt track that you put lines on? They can, and we've done this plenty of times before, such that the track could go down next summer. The other important thing to do is get the field surface down. And the board made the decision at the beginning of this project to put sod on the field instead of seed. So I get an instant green, and I shorten the time frame before I can be on the field. So the field knits, I get my asphalt down, I probably spray next year, and then I'm done. So that's a little bit of the process. Then there's this grant, and it's from Montgomery County Recovery Funds and recreation for schools was one of the eligible criteria. So you've heard me speak before you before. You should see what I wrote on your behalf with respect to why you need this track so badly. And just so you know, I threw in the synthetic turf in the grant application as well. That's why it's $3.2 million. So that's a little bit of what has to happen in order for the track to occur. And then the accessories. Commonly, we would have a 4-foot vinyl-coated chain link fence around a track. Commonly, because it's an athletic field, there'd be probably a 4 or 8-foot asphalt sidewalk around the outside of that. You've been to the fields before, so you know. And then there's questions. We could leave the goalposts that are up there still in place, or we could go get new ones. So there's
How old are those goalposts?
older than Joe.
They're antique.
They're original.
They are original, okay.
Well, there's something about nostalgia on a football
Yeah.
field, right?
You can obviously tell Mr. Lynch played with a leather helmet.
Scoreboard, sometimes it's a concrete pad for the portable bleachers. Outside of that, it's kind of ticky-tack stuff. So, that's how it would go together. But this process for your approval, we would have to, there's the chicken or the egg thing. I need a design so that I can get a price, so I can bring it back to you so that we can go. So we wanted to give you an image and a budget. And the last time I converted a cinder track to a synthetic track, it was about $1 million. But that was in 2015, and escalation takes it to this point these days, unfortunately.
So would this be considered a conversion because the cinders are already there, even though they're buried under dirt and
The
debris?
cinders are pretty much gone. Because
Okay.
they were, basically that track has acted as a construction roadway.
Right.
So the cinders were pulled up. They're in a little pile, but there's not enough. And they would come in from the earthwork contractor to restore them. But absolutely, it's a conversion because you have an existing football field. You have all of the things there already. It's not like we're regrading the entire property for it. And so from a value perspective, this is why you asked. Now is the time to do it. If you didn't do it and put the sod down and put the cinders back and decided in 2 years you wanted a track in place,
Right.
the overall net cost would be higher.
And I know we had this conversation many, many years ago, Mr. Lally, when we did the high school stadium. We weren't going to do a synthetic turf track.
Correct.
And I'm really glad we did.
Right.
So in my view, this is worth the money because of the long term and the amount of use that field and that track get. Everybody uses it. Everybody uses it.
It's exactly how it appears in the grant. The community.
The community uses that track.
It is, and it is very common, and I think Jamie can speak to this also with all the work he does, that they're putting synthetic tracks in middle school. So it's not uncommon that you're seeing that, where maybe 10 years ago you might have thought, well, do we need it at the middle school? If you're seeing new middle schools, you're seeing synthetic tracks.
I mean, I'd love to have turf instead, but that's an extreme. But to me, this is kind of like something I feel like we should do.
The one variable are the D areas of the track. So the D is obviously the letter D. It's forward on one side, it's backwards on the other. Now, what do you do with the Ds? Either they remain grass or they go synthetic. And one of the reasons they go synthetic is the high jump is usually in one of the Ds. So you have what you have now on the right-hand side is a paved, it's actually not there anymore. This is the original field. You have a paved diamond for the high jump. The high jump mat goes on that, and the competition occurs. Then you have the long jump and the triple jump, and they're inside the straightaway here. But on a synthetic surface, they usually go in the D zone. And so the option exists, asphalt and synthetic in the D zone, which is another 56,000 square feet or so in the D zone and the related costs. Or to build them just like they are now with a curb and they're still in a grass area. So it all depends on the robustness, is that a word, of the middle school track program.
Okay, so another question, when you just talked about that, I know we had this conversation with our turf fields. Is there any difference between what we have there now or would have there now if we just stayed with the same thing and the synthetic in terms of injuries for high jump, long jump? Is there any?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely studies that show pros and cons for both. I mean, so what we do is we have like compaction testing on our turf fields every year, which tells us the fill, if we have the right amount of fill and things in there. So overall, you'll see slightly less injuries on the turf field than you will on grass. But on a synthetic turf, synthetic track versus, I would have to look into it before to give you a firm answer yet. But I would imagine, again, cinders you're going to see where people might be able to actually slip and fall, where you're going to have extra traction on a synthetic turf. So just thinking out loud, I would think more of the things where you come to a complete stop on the synthetic turf or a hard stop might be a little bit different on the joint. So I'll look into that.
Absolutely. You'll probably find that undoubtedly the synthetic surface is a safer surface for all of the things related to the cinders and and the sliding and the, you know, the issues associated with maintenance. You can have a fantastic maintenance staff, but the night before a spring track meet, there could be a freeze thaw, as we were seeing, or there could be a hellacious storm, and all of a sudden either you have water or you have something else that's impacted the track. The other thing that we've seen is the curb, the barrier that's on the outside that holds the cinder in place. Sometimes that's a concrete curb like you have here. Other places it's a metal keeper strip. So you can only imagine, some of the things that happen there. So there is no doubt that the synthetic track surface is better for the athletes.
It is. You will also, believe it or not, you actually can have a track meet that on synthetic turf, you're less likely to have a rain event where you'll still have the track meet. And if you're on cinders, you will, from time to time, be told you can't run today.
I had one more question, and that is the approval process from the county. You've done this many times. How long does that generally take?
So for your project, we have not seen the conservation district on the job since the first week of the job. I'm not sure why that is, but in this case, the the cinder track is considered impervious. The synthetic track is also considered impervious. The stormwater associated with them is already in place. That's the key to going to the conservation district and asking for what's called a minor permit modification. As long as the conservation district considers it to be a minor mod, as we say, it's quick. If they say it's a major mod, it takes longer. What I would suggest, if we have our ducks in a row, is that we make contact with the conservation district and explain what we're doing, and at least get the answer that they believe that it would be a minor mod.
Okay.
Can I have a turn? Sorry, with questions? Did you have questions?
You go ahead. I have a question, but yeah.
Okay. So regarding the grant, A, do you know when we'll hear back from that? And then B, is it only for that specific use, for the track and the field there?
It's the track, the field, and the emergency responder system is what we put in for.
So what the county has said on their website is on May 22nd, which is pretty impressive, they might have a list of candidate projects. If you go on the county website now, you'll see all of the projects that were submitted. Because it's Montgomery County and it's kind of my territory, I have several of these grants in. The very first one I submitted was a week ago, and the following day, the county called the school district and went through the application. They mean business because, like your ESSER funds, these funds have to be expended before 2026. And that's what, as I wrote in the grant, makes your project shovel ready and a good candidate for something. Some of the eligibility criteria have to do with sustainability, ability to implement, and where better do you have great confidence that you can implement than a school district or another public entity. There are a lot of other applications that have gone in for ideas that members of the public have that may not have the resources that a school district has in order to actually implement. And so I think that that's something that the county may look favorably upon.
And then my other question is, do you, is there a way that we could, I don't know, do you authorize a preliminary design for the track without actually committing to the whole thing?
I mean, I think we can get a rendering of it, but obviously it would be something that we because it's in addition to, we would have to pay for that. So.
Well, I'm not saying that we wouldn't pay for it, but I'm wondering, can we allocate some money for that before we, right at this point? I'm sorry. Start the process to start the process. Could we authorize?
I don't want to speak for Jamie, but I think that's what we're trying to figure out. We want to know if that's what you guys want us to do. We will start the process, because I think, as you heard Jamie say, we need the design first. So we have to realize, what do we want on the field, because all of that plays into it. Do you want bleachers on the field that hold X amount of spectators? Do you want a new scoreboard, because now the old school scoreboard will probably stand out more and not look good?
Is soccer going to be on the same field? That's like
Soccer on the field, I mean, the field itself, we use for all the sports, so they'll all get scheduled at different times on there. But yeah, the field, it's not just for football. Soccer plays on there.
I thought the old soccer field was just down the hill, but
It was, but remember, there's 7th and 8th grade, and then you have boys and girls. So reality is, for programs, someone will be on that field at some point in time.
And you have a new soccer field going in as part of the project. It sits on the site of the existing parking lot for the existing middle school.
Right.
So you get a soccer field, a baseball field, and then you have this field.
I guess the reason why, because I was thinking about when you said, do we want bleachers that hold X amount of people? And I was thinking, well, I mean, there's going to be plenty of people that if there's football and soccer on the same field, but now if there's different fields, I don't know, does the soccer field have its own set of bleachers?
So we usually just have mobile bleachers that we put in. So, we pick them up, our guys handle them and put them away, and they've been moved for the project. So we have several mobile bleachers. But because middle school sports are played after school immediately a lot, they're well attended, but maybe not as well attended as a 7 o'clock game at the high school. So I don't want to, misguide or underline middle school sports, because I'm just saying sometimes they're not as well attended.
You said you submitted the grant for theoretically synthetic turf on the football field as well?
On this field. So what I did is, first was the emergency responder system.
Right.
Second was a synthetic track. And third was a synthetic field. And what I made sure of is I didn't want the entire field to potentially or possibly be thrown away. So they actually asked a question. If we are unable to fully fund this project, what would your project become? And I made it clear that your goal is a synthetic track. And what we would do, and presumably what the design would be, is to design it for a future synthetic field. And then to answer your question as well, absolutely, we're waiting a proposal that would come to you from KCBA to do the design. You could commission the design of the track. They would design the track such that it could accommodate a synthetic field in the future. And really the only thing that happens there is on the interior side of the track, there's a channel drain that takes the drainage from the track and a concrete curb that acts as the nailer for the synthetic turf. They actually nail it to that curb. So they'd put that design together. You'd potentially get your track, and whenever the time is right in order to do the field, great.
And Jamie, if I can just jump in there real quick. So when he talked of a minor mod to the conservation department, that's because we spoke about the turf field initially. So when we were looking at stormwater management and things like that, in our original design, that's what we were thinking. We wanted to prepare for that down the road. That's why we're hoping that this is just a minor a change in our permit, because we were already planning for stormwater and then those type of things with a turf field.
So Jamie, if I'm understanding you, or Rick, you have more? If I'm understanding you, you're saying basically we need to commit to paying for the design in order to move forward with making a decision about all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said KCBA is coming up with, because you're really good at this, can you give me a ballpark on what the design will cost?
Let me wait for the proposal. You got me there. You got me flat-footed.
I mean, are we talking $100,000? Are we talking $25,000? Are we talking? I won't hold you to it, I promise. But I'm just curious what kind of money we have to commit to even make a decision.
Commonly, and again, we'll check with them. Commonly, you have 1.5 to 1.7 million in costs. I'm expecting that includes the design fee, okay? KCBA's working on a percentage of construction cost. It's something north of 5%. They've got a civil engineering component here. Commonly, to do a track like this, I would see a fee that approaches $100,000. But let's see how it comes in, okay? Is it under $100,000? For you, I would hope so.
How about for me?
For all of you, sorry, equality.
Say, and if they did the design, but then we went with the original plan, the fee would have been the original fee, right? Which the additional supplement. For
Yes,
the
very,
design.
absolutely good point.
There's no scenario where we'd ever end up with lights at that field, correct? Like from the lights to make it more. So if we had a nice track and we had a turf field, I assume that neighborhood and the zoning that.
Were you around when we decided to put fields on the, lights on the fields down here?
It's
not pretty.
A lot of people like fields, so
It's not pretty.
makes it more.
Dr. Christian comes in at
I
the
will tell you
exact
that.
right moment.
Lights are a whole different monster.
Right. It was the.
Yeah.
So when people ask, I can say,
Families on,
turf is exciting,
Yeah.
track is nice, lights are not going to happen.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
families on Maplewood and Park have been outstanding to deal with. And
That was my assumption. I just wanted to clarify.
that may not last much longer.
If they hear your question tonight, it definitely won't last much longer.
Okay, so to clarify, if we would like to authorize a preliminary plan or however, what would we need to have as a motion for the meeting in May?
So we would need to tell KCBA what we would like on the field. So we have to look at the allocation, and then they can start a design. They won't start a design until we tell them what we want it to be. So what are we looking to accomplish in the design?
But this is catch-22 because we can't decide what we want until we know how much it costs, and we can't know how much it costs until they do the design.
Correct.
We authorize, could the board authorize a feasibility study and
exceed?
estimate?
I'm sure we could, yeah. Sure we could work with, I'll call KCBA tomorrow, I'm sure.
Would that give us the same what you're hoping for?
What I would suggest is that the two can run in parallel. I think I would suggest to you, I'd recommend to you that upon receipt of a proposal from KCBA to perform the design, they have to design the track, the asphalt, the surface, the fence, the surrounding path. Scoreboard, electric, they're all accessories. You just have to decide as a part of the design whether you want them. And to your point, if they're working on a percentage of construction cost or their percentage, it doesn't matter. All of those accessories, scoreboard, bleachers, they're all alternate. When we go to a contractor and price it, we tell him whether we want it in or not. So the important thing is to get it started, get you a design. We'll go ahead, with your permission, and contact the Conservation District to confirm for you it's a minor mod. But I wanted to be able to explain the asphalt could go down, but in all likelihood, the coating would not go down until next year because of the timing, because of the weather, because of the need to have 40 units.
Okay. All right, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Oh, one more question, with the removal of the soil that's left, the removal of the soil from the, you have a chart, but I didn't pay attention to specifically what the soil timeline was, but are we okay to move forward with that, or are we still kind of stuck with what to do with it?
With the soil?
Yeah.
We'll have more accurate information for the board next month, because there is some larger stones, boulders, if you will, inside the soil that are being removed. And then we'll have a better accountability of actually what is soil and then what it will take to move.
Because I heard there's a few new sinkholes that might use some soil. There's a few new sinkholes in the area that could use some large boulders and stuff.
I'll keep that in mind, thank you. Next item on the agenda is just that we did have a pre-construction meeting for the Conshohocken roof replacement over the summer. We're also getting ready to, in summertime for facilities, we try and get as many of the capital improvement projects done over the summer. So there's several roofing items. There's some new carpeted, I think it's Conshohocken and White Marsh. So all of those jobs we're gearing up for now and seeing what we'll be able to do this summer. And what we can't do this summer, we will obviously look into utilizing winter break before the year is up on on the 5-year capital improvement plan. But I just thought it was important to let everybody know that what's on that list, again, if you take a look at it, there are the projects under 2022 that we're now, we're working on getting all those things together.
Mr. Lally, when you're talking about those capital improvement projects, I think given that we have 2 new board members, could you share that 5-year, the capital?
It's on board docs.
Oh, is it?
But,
Okay.
but I can share it with you.
Yeah,
in
if
an
you
email
could share it
also.
with the
Sure.
board again so that the new people can see it.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So is there any question on the summer projects? Okay, the next item on the agenda was we had our risk assessment evaluation by CM Region, which I believe they do every 3 years, Dave. So that works with our insurance company, and I'm proud to report that it was by far the best report we received in my tenure here. There was only 5 or 6 items district-wide, and some of them were things that were global that we actually have done, like inspection of our sprinkler system, that he just didn't look in the right spot for the actual tag that said it was inspected. But overall, after speaking with the agent that came out, he himself said, you know, he was really impressed from playgrounds and everything that we were doing. So, you know, that's, you know, a testament to the board and everybody's and facilities and Dr. Christian and teachers and reporting issues and fixing things in a timely manner so that we can have a safe district. So I thought that was important to share with everyone tonight. Because usually we get a page and a half for each school.
And a testament to you.
Oh.
Give yourself credit. You're leading that work, so thank you.
Thank you. If there's no questions on the risk assessment, I thought it was important just to bring up one other issue. So we obviously, the district recognizes Earth Day and Arbor Day. So we're all looking at a picture there of Mr. Kelly, who is our turf management supervisor for our crew. Very briefly, a history on Arbor Day with Colonial. Somewhere around, I'm going to say 15 to 17 years ago, Mr. Kelly came into the office to Mr. Yem and myself and said, hey, you know, I have a vendor. He wants to do, you know, something for Arbor Day. You know, what do you think? And we said, sure. And we did it right out back here with just the 4-5 building. And then as the year went by, the following year, we were involved with an arborist with some issues with some trees and some construction. And we did the next couple of years with an arborist, and again, Mr. Kelly. But then when we did that, we did CE, we did CES, and we would bring one other school to CES to participate in. So there would be a bus for them to come over here. Well, now it's obviously been, now that Maria Wilczek has played a huge part in that also, they go to all the schools and they participate in the program with all the students. And it really is something that I know that I've seen it, I've been there. Maria and Jean actually did a video when it was during COVID, and they dressed up so that they still, that the students still got to see something for Arbor Day. But I think it's important to highlight some of the work of people like Gene. I think there's one more picture of him actually, you know, showing them, you know, the root of a tree and how he's going to plant the tree in that picture. Being that Gene is someone that went to school here, lived in the community, it is really vested. I think he's not only a big asset to our department, to our district, his entire department is. But this is something he does above and beyond his normal job that I don't think a lot of people know, and I just wanted to make sure that people know how much a guy like we're fortunate to have Gene is here with us and how much he cares.
Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great, again, Maria Wilczek's wonderful with it too. She dressed up. I think there's some pictures on social media, and they work with the students on Earth Day also. So they do some pretty cool things with the students. And if there's no more questions there, the last thing on the agenda is if you have any transportation updates, sir.
I do. We still need drivers. Sound like a broken record, but hopefully we can pick up some this summer. I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the regional vice president for student and our depot manager. They're coming to visit myself and Mr. Brown. So we're going to try to, put our heads together, see what we can do to attract more drivers. Internally, Mr. Brown has started a transportation committee, sort of a brainstorming of various levels of, teachers, aides, secretaries, to try to come up with some creative ways of getting the kids to school the most efficient way. The next meeting set up for this Friday, and then he's got another one 2 weeks from now, and they're putting a plan together for to be implemented this summer and hopefully executed this fall so that we can get the kids, but hopefully get some more drivers before then. So brief update, but still working on it.
And that's the last item on the agenda this evening.
Okay. I just have one other question. Did we get any feedback about Township Day and on Victory Fields? Like any?
Actually, we received a lot of positive feedback from Mr. Blumstrom from Parks and Rec and Chief Ward, and apparently everything went great. They're beyond ecstatic that we provide the facilities for them for that date. And from everything that we have heard, Gene and myself and working with them has been nothing but positive things.
Thanks. Is there any other board comment, questions? Any public comment?
I see none at this time.
That being said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.